every Wednesday on WSTU AM 1450 and Facebook Live at The Casey Ingram Show.
You are listening to WSTU, Stewart, Jensen Beach, Hope Sound, Martin County's Heritage Station.
It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Good morning and welcome back for the second half hour of the Casey Ingram Show. Going to be a really good and informative session here. We have Senator Gail Harrell in the studio after another session up in Tallahassee, Senator. You know, you have been up there, and it's always such a busy time. You hardly ever get a chance to come back, home during that time. But there's really been a lot of bills that's caught a lot of attention this time.
Yes.
There's always something, but
there's always something.
There's
Yes.
something different. I mean, with the environment that's out there today, political and whatnot, there's always new ones, let's just say. So we're really anxious to talk with you to find out what has went on and what happened in Tallahassee. And before I let you go into that, I got to thank my sponsors really quick. First one, forbearances, working remotely, internet shopping, retail space and rental income have been hit hard by COVID. If you are looking to restructure your debt, obtain financing or equity, Commercial Mortgage can help you out. Tim Mullen at Commercial Mortgage has been providing debt restructuring services since 2003. Tim never charges a front fee and all consultations are free. Tim only gets paid if he provides you a debt workout. Looking for a debt solution or financing? Give Tim a call at 772-872-6099 or visit Commercial Mortgage LLC to schedule your free consultation. And also, don't forget about the best kept secret in Martin County. That is the Fish House Art Center down in Port Salerno, down in the pocket as we call it. The FishHouseArtCenter.com. You can check them out online before you head down. But honestly, folks, there's something there for the whole family. So if you have friends from out of town right now, it's spring break for a lot of folks. Take them right down there to the pocket. It's a lot of fun. It's got an art gallery, marina, craft and creamery where they have craft beers, wine, and 24 flavors of ice cream. You can rent paddle boards, bikes. I mean, honestly, there's just something to do out there for everybody. And also, hurricane season is right around the corner, folks. And I hate to say it, but it is, and you need to have peace of mind. And I personally cannot think of a better place to keep your boat that's going to be more safe than Indiantown Marina. So I can't recommend you enough. Once a hurricane is named, you're not going to get a place in this town to store your boat. So give them a call and get a reservation so you know if something is named this summer, you have a place to take your boat. They're down in the Okeechobee Waterway and very, very well protected hurricane hull. And also, why the boat's there, it's a do-it-yourself and full-service boat yard. So if you need any work done, Indiantown Marina can help you out. Give them a call at 772-631-3272, 631-3272. All right, Senator Harrell, I'm so anxious to hear about what has happened in Tallahassee. So I have to say before you start, I wanted to get some updates during session, and I never was able to schedule a time. It's crazy, so I'm thankful you're here today.
Thank you so much, and it's a delight to be here as always. As always, I enjoy being very much a part of this and really updating our wonderful residents of the Treasure Coast about the fantastic session we had. I have to tell you that probably the number one issue is, of course, always the budget.
Yes,
that is huge. And, of course, given COVID, we were anticipating a very tough year again. And it turned out not to be so.
Thank goodness.
Thank God.
And thank you for Florida, right?
And
Governor
thank
DeSantis.
You for Florida. Other states are still struggling.
They are.
But Florida is open. Florida is ready for business. And I can tell you, we did a lot of business in Florida. And our revenues were incredible. So we had the largest budget ever. $112 billion.
Wow.
Yes, even surpassing last year's $101 billion.
Amazing.
It was tremendous. Of course, we don't know yet what the governor is going to do on vetoes.
Right.
But hopefully, all of that, especially those projects that are so important to the Treasure Coast, really stay in the budget.
Yes. Oh,
Yes.
there 100%. There's so many, and that's what you fight for is the Treasure Coast. First and foremost, you've done so many bills for the water to make sure it gets funded so that we can do restoration. So,
Yes.
and that's one of the bills we have to talk about.
Yes. I am sure that will be a conversation.
So, and let's step right into it. That's Senate Bill 2508.
Yes, 2508, and not without controversy.
Never
as
is.
you would expect. And when I first looked at 2508, I had serious concerns about it because we have done so much in the way of Everglades restoration. Back in 2015, we passed wonderful legislation that put in place a dedicated funding source. I was so happy to do Legacy Florida, working with then Senator Joe Negron. And we said we've got to put more money into stopping the releases from Lake Okeechobee. Of course, we were in that awful summer. We'd had several awful summers.
Yes.
And we've all lived through that. So I wanted to look at 2508 in that lens and say, what is it doing to our water? How is it affecting the Treasure Coast? What does it mean to stopping the releases from Lake Okeechobee? And importantly, what will be the impact on the EAA reservoir? The reservoir south of the lake, because that was a commitment we all had made, again, to make sure that we move water south, that we store it, and we release it appropriately through the STAs, make sure it's filtered and clean, and then it goes down into the Everglades. So this is a project, as you know, I've been involved in for 20 years,
Yes,
way back.
Absolutely.
So I was very concerned about it. And I went directly to the sponsor, to Senator Albritton, who is a good friend, and also directly to the President of the Senate and said, these are my concerns. What can you do? I want to make sure we are guaranteeing that the impact of this is not going to be negative on the Treasure Coast. And we have to look at this holistically. Yes, we need to make sure that the city of West Palm Beach has water. They depend on the Lake Okeechobee for their water supply.
Yes.
So you have to be very careful in how you regulate things. And also, what is the state's role in this? So I think at the end of the day, all my questions were answered. There was major changes made to the bill. So at the end of the day, I was comfortable with voting for it because it did several things. Number one, it guaranteed the money for the EAA, $64 million. It put some safeguards in to make sure that any change in regulations of the lake schedule, which of course ultimately is the Army Corps of Engineers,
That's right. Federal.
is federal. Any recommendations really are in accord with state policy. And the South Florida Water Management has every ability to make those recommendations. It did not change that at all. What it did was say that we cannot, any regulation that would change certain parameters, like water for stopping releases from Lake Okeechobee, water to West Palm Beach and other cities, would have to come back for ratification to the legislature.
Okay.
However, if they were not ratified, if no action was taken, they automatically became rule.
Okay.
So a little bit of a safeguard, but not oppressive. And the governor could veto it, in which case, if the legislature took action, the governor could veto it, and then the rule would stand as presented by South Florida Water Management.
Okay.
So two levels of scrutiny, both from the legislature, and if the governor doesn't agree, he can veto it. So it set up a process that I think in the long run will stand in good stead. The guarantees to really making sure we move forward with the dollars was very, very important. And as you can see in this budget, we've got the money there. And, for moving water south, for continuing the work that we are doing. And when you look at the budget this year, the record level of funding is phenomenal.
It's
just
huge.
Phenomenal. We're putting $885 million into comprehensive Everglades restoration, and $64 million guaranteed to the EAA. Now, the Army Corps is the one that's got to step up and do their share. We're putting our money there.
I was going to say, Senator Harrell, and maybe you can update me. I've lost track of it a little bit, but there was an agreement with our federal partners that they would pay for 50% of restoration, and the state of Florida was the other 50%. And the feds have been way behind on their contribution, and the state of Florida has. I'm sure we're way above 50% now because we keep stepping up and trying to fix our problem. I mean, the water is our lifeblood.
Yes.
And for folks, I want to step back 1 second here because we've had so many people that have moved here to Florida in the last couple of years because of COVID, and I've met so many of them because they couldn't work in the state that they were at, so they came here so they could survive and have a livelihood. And the last couple of years, our water quality hasn't been that bad here. They don't understand what the discharges during really rainy seasons can be. And folks, the reason why Senator Harrell and others have fought so hard to clean our waterways, and it's so important to stop these discharges, is we get what's called a toxic blue-green algae in the water, and it's just intolerable. We lost dogs that we were drinking, and I don't know what kind of health it poses to people, but we're all worried about that as well, and I've done shows on that previously. So water quality, even though it looks okay right now, a rainy season can change it in a snap.
Yes. And I have to say, over the last 10 years, we have put so much money into this, and we are now seeing the completion of projects.
True.
We're starting to see the completion. When we were out at the C-44 celebration, Oh my goodness, was that not amazing? In spite of the rain and the wind.
Yes.
It was wonderful to see something of that magnitude actually completed. And
that's the important part. That's what we've talked about so long, is there's so many projects out there, but none of them get funded or they don't get completed. And you're right, this last decade there has been tremendous improvement
work.
And movement.
Yes, tremendous movement. And this year, with the over $800 million that we're putting into comprehensive Everglades restoration,
almost 900 million.
Almost 900 million. It's really amazing. And that will continue the work. We're going to finish these projects. Now, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't build reservoirs overnight.
No.
But you have to continue to do it. The blue-green algae, we're putting $40 million into research and to stopping that and treatment of it, looking for treatment of it as well. So that has increased every single year.
Senator Harrell, if I could stop you for 1 second, I know in a couple weeks I'm going to have Orca in here, and they did a study on the North Fork, and it mapped the river and all the contaminants that are in it. It was actually pretty amazing. They're going to be in here, and we'll go over some of those graphics when they're here. But does this work in conjunction at all with what Orca's finding? Because they're a private nonprofit, but they've went out and they got all this data that I think is going to be incredibly useful.
Absolutely, and in fact, the state funds them.
The state funded them. Okay,
yes,
perfect.
Funded them to a large degree in really providing resources to do that research. So we are definitely on board with using that research to inform decision making on how we spend our money and what needs to happen.
In the Everglades Restoration funds, does that go to SERP, Central Everglades Restoration Projects in particular, or
yes,
others?
That goes to Comprehensive Everglades Restoration, goes to SERP projects. And it's, across the board, every single project you can imagine out there.
There's so many projects that are not finished, and so it's not like we're looking for projects to spend it on. They're there. There's still not enough money to do all the projects.
But when you also look at the Indian River Lagoon, we put very specific dollars into the Indian River Lagoon, which I have been pushing as well, because that is also part of our natural treasure here on the on the Treasure Coast. It's the most biodiverse estuary in the country, and we want to make sure that we look at what we're doing to that estuary as well. And that comes down to a lot of water runoff, septic to sewer conversion, and that type of thing. So we're putting significant dollars into that kind of wastewater treatment to prevent the pollution from coming into our rivers.
Senator Harrell, that is so important, because right now, even though we don't have the discharges, the contamination we do have is just from that. It's local runoff. It's
local runoff. Yep.
So
absolutely.
There's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Whether
there.
it is the wastewater treatment plants,
right.
When we had storms here, we had Fort Pierce, leaked right into the lagoon.
They're right there.
And we wanted to make sure that the wastewater treatment plants as well as that septic to sewer conversion are so important.
It's huge. And I understand that wastewater treatment plant, the sewer plant in Fort Pierce is going to be moved.
Yes, I am delighted.
Finally, I know. I'm sure at one point it made sense to put it there. It's like one of the most beautiful places on the Indian River Lagoon.
My
and
goodness,
there's a sewer plant. So.
And that was it. It's going. Bye-bye.
So that's absolutely fabulous news. We're speaking with Senator Harrell. She's back from session this year and has all kind of updates. And of course, locally here, there's nothing more important than our water and the quality of our water. And it's something that she fights for every year, day in and day out, not just in session. So if you have a question or comment, 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And also I'm watching here on Facebook Live for comments at the Casey Ingram Show. So Senator Harrell, there's one other thing here. You just talked about it, the Septic Upgrade Incentive Program, $10 million. Is that just for the Treasure Coast or statewide?
That is statewide. There's actually more in other grants, but that is specifically for Septic Upgrade.
Is that something that it has to be a match with the community?
Yes, all those kinds of projects are all match. We want our communities to invest as well. So those things are extremely important. We do have a lot of money for beaches as well, $58 million going into beaches, which of course, again, are the treasure of the Treasure Coast.
They are.
You know?
They are.
So important.
So many of our beaches, they are so important. And people don't understand, the beach renourishment program. But, the way we live has changed over the years. The barrier islands are no longer barrier islands. People are living on them.
Yes.
So they need to be taken care of.
Yes.
It's what we are faced with today. So,
the environment is so important. But we also need to realize that we have to continue to build our economy.
Yes.
And our economy and our environment are very linked.
Yes.
As we know, especially here on the Treasure Coast. So I am delighted that we have two major projects we got done that are both environment and economic development projects. And I would encourage everyone to write to the governor and do not veto these projects, please. And one of them is an economic development project is the Martin County 7J Sewer Project. It's $2 million, and it's going to help. It's a sewer project, but will open up land for economic development.
Wonderful.
And in Martin County, South Martin County. But then we also have to look in the Southern Groves in Port St. Lucie, which is an economic development corridor. And we're going to put, I believe it's $1.7 million into that wastewater septic to sewer program.
This is wonderful.
So, you tie the two things together and you look at the environment, which is so important to us here.
100%.
But you also have to tie it to economic development.
Right.
So that's where the sewer projects come in and prevent that water that eventually would come out into the St. Lucie or the Indian River Lagoon and make sure that when you do economic development, you provide for the sewer projects to go with it.
Okay.
So I
100%.
think tying those two things together is very, very important.
That's right. When there is that development, you need to be able to take care of the utilities and the sewer and everything that comes up to it so it doesn't stress our ecosystem further.
Exactly.
I have a question here. I'm going to let you. I think it needs probably some clarification, but Brent Wallenberg, with worldwide famine on the horizon, I'm curious how much farmland you're going to turn into, as he says, an infested swamp with money. But I don't believe that's what the SERP project is about.
No. What the SERP does, it wants to, it does several things. First of all, it's creating the EAA Reservoir South. It's going to do reservoirs and storage, and in fact, underground storage as well as above ground storage north of the lake. We want to provide water resources. When you look at the growth in Orlando, you have to realize that people need water to live, and we don't want that water to go to tide and go to waste.
Right.
So by storing water north of the lake, and you filter it, you build what are called stormwater treatment areas to filter that water before it comes down into either the lake or into the Everglades.
Here.
So it's got to be both. We're not taking away natural filter areas. We are actually building some natural filter areas.
You talk about achievement, Senator Harrell. That's another one. And I don't know the statistics off the top of my head, but they are absolutely mind-boggling. The water, they took out the oxbows in the Kissimmee River from Orlando down to Lake Okeechobee, and the water just went rushing through what used to take, I want to say, around 3 months. I could be wrong on that, but it was a long time. And they took those oxbows out, and the water just came rushing down, and there was nothing that slowed it down and cleaned it.
Correct.
Now, in the last 10 years, we've put those oxbows back in.
Yes, we have completed
STAs.
that. That is now completed. And that we have, as I use the term that I invented, re-meanderizing.
There you go. I like that term. I get it. Re-meanderizing.
We have re-meanderized the river, you know, and the whole Kissimmee River now is back in its natural state.
So important.
And that will eliminate all the nitrogen and the phosphorus in particular coming into the lake. Now, we still have to deal eventually with the residual phosphorus in the lake.
Right.
That's a long-term.
The legacy muck is a tough thing to deal with.
The legacy muck is a very difficult problem. And phosphorus is a natural fertilizer.
Right.
So as, you know, here we go into international affairs, Ukraine and being the producer of, and Russia being a major producer of fertilizer. I think there might be economic opportunity there to look and see how do you use that phosphorus out of the lake and create it into a potential source of fertilizer.
I just did a show recently on the potential problem of a food famine because of the lack of fertilizers here coming up in the fall. So, you know, you're absolutely right. I didn't even think about all the phosphorus we have stored that we need to get rid of.
So let's process it and ship it off to Illinois and Wisconsin and grow some wheat.
Yeah, that's right. Bring it right back home here to America. You know, I'm all for that. Senator Harrell, I appreciate you coming in, and I know obviously the water's a huge priority, but you also have another priority, and that's education.
Yes.
And there's been a lot happening with education bills. The first one was the parental rights in education. Like, what cracks me up is, you know, people, you've heard it. They term it, don't say gay bill. But you know what's interesting about that? The term gay is not anywhere in the bill.
No, it is not in the bill, and it is so misunderstood. And, you know, it's a very difficult subject because everybody has their own right to their own life.
Right.
And we need to affirm that. So it is nothing about that. What it says, and if you read the plain language of the bill, and it's changed from its very beginning, it simply says, number one, there shall be no discussion K through 3. I didn't mean to say discussion. There should be no instruction.
Right.
The word was changed from discussion to very specifically listening again to concerns. It was changed very specifically to instruction. So no formal instruction to 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds about anything related to sex education, any type of sexuality, any instruction on gender, any instruction on sexual orientation, nothing, no discussion on any topic dealing with sex, sexuality.
Kindergarten, first, second, third graders, folks.
Yeah.
This makes common sense.
That's a discussion to have at home.
Right.
That's instruction to have at home.
The parents should be the ones
and
decide.
It was very specifically asked on the floor. If a child asks a question, the teacher can answer the question, but there's no instruction.
They're not going to have a course on it, right?
They're not having a course on it. So answering natural questions that kids have is perfectly fine. There's no initiation on the part of the teacher. There is in the way of instruction. So people need to read the plain language of the bill.
And I'm shocked. Disney World is going to appeal this law. I mean, Disney World, where we take all our kids, and we're talking, like you said, 5, 6, 7-year-olds.
Yes.
It blows my mind. I'm very upset with Disney. I'm going to boycott them at the moment. So, you know, it's like my daughter. I have a daughter, as you know.
Yes.
She's a little bit older now, but at that age, you know, I should be the one making the decision.
You make the one making the decision, and any instruction thereafter has to be age appropriate.
Right. Right.
That's all the bill says. It also says parents need to be notified if there's a change, if there is anything done in the health or welfare of the child. Parents need to be involved in their child's education.
I believe anything that's controversial, I think the parents need to be told. I'm not saying you can't bring it into schools or what have you, but you let the parents decide if their child can be exposed to whatever it is. I mean, I know that schools have a lot to deal with these days. I understand that, but the parent ultimately is the one that should be deciding what their child is exposed to.
Yes.
And, again, in this particular bill, kindergarten through third grade, those discussions shouldn't be happening in the classroom. Those instructions, I should say, not discussions. The instructions should not be happening in the classroom, in my opinion, to begin with. So this bill, I can't believe people are opposing it, but they are.
Well, it's being misrepresented, unfortunately.
Well, when they put out the term "Don't Say Gay" bill, and it's not even in the term "gay" is not even in the bill. So
has nothing.
There was another great bill, in my opinion. It's the financial literacy.
Yes. Yes.
It's a course for high school seniors, or you need to be able to pass something before I'll let you explain it.
Yes. Well, we did pass. This is a bill that's been around for a long time, and Senator Dorothy Huckel, who I served with when she was in the House, had been on that march for many years, and she passed away several years ago. But we finally passed it, and it says that before you graduate, you have to have a course in financial literacy. You need to know how to balance a checkbook. You need to know how to make appropriate decisions on your financing. And so that when a kid graduates from high school, they have the ability to go out there and survive in this world.
It's a life skill.
It's a life skill. So I don't know why it's been difficult to pass, but we finally got it done.
I'm so glad you have. I mean, it makes such common sense. Again, I mean, for kids, they're 18, you're an adult now. Well, we're not even ensuring that they know how to balance a checkbook before we send them on their merry way.
Deal with credit card debt, right? Or not even get credit card debt.
Right. Be able to manage your finances is incredibly important. So congratulations on that bill. That's a huge one. And we have just a couple minutes left here, but what other bills did you want to? I know there was one I was going to bring up, the House Bill 741, the rooftop solar bill.
Oh, yes.
That's one that people are questioning as well.
Yes, that was a little controversial. And what it does, it sets a glide path into stopping what we call net metering, which says that you can sell back at retail price whatever additional electricity you're making. In reality, that's a subsidy because the cost of electricity, what you're paying retail, includes all the infrastructure, not just the actual production.
Okay.
So you got to pay for those lines. You got to pay for that plant. You also have to have backup. So this sets a glide path over which time, if you've already purchased your solar, you will pay it off long before this glide path is over. So, but we want to encourage solar, but we also want to not have somebody who can't afford solar pay for someone who spent a lot of money on solar.
Right.
So it's really looking at folks who are perhaps financially disadvantaged, paying for their electricity for people who can afford to do that. So,
will they still be able to sell electricity back just at
it will for a certain number of years at the same price, but then it's a glide and that will decline as to the amount they get back to what would be really the production cost.
Production cost rather than the retail cost.
Correct.
And again, that makes sense because somebody else has all the line equipment and necessary equipment that is able to purchase that excess energy back. So thank you, Senator Harrell. It has been so wonderful here. Next week, we're going to have Terry Barber. Everybody knows Terry Barber. He's our local favorite here, and he's going to be here with a great group. We're going to share it next week on the show. They're going to be Zooming in with us. There's 3 of them. And we also are going to have Dr. Schuler with the American Water Security Project. And in a couple weeks after that, Dr. Beth Fall with Orca Pollution Mapping, and it's Representative Bob Inglis. I'm going to get it. And he's the director of Republican Conservatives that are addressing climate change. So a lot of great shows coming up. Senator Harrell, thank you so much.
Delighted to be here.
As always, we'll see you next Wednesday. Tune in at 10:05.